SST, faculty present, and research scholars and friends. Thank you so very much for having me here today on the occasion of Hilpi Divoch. The one day, I think not many states in India have this kind of a day dedicated to the arts. I think that is a very significant and a wonderful thing that Assam does in recognition of all the wonderful work by Jyoti Prasad, who we also call Roop Kaur, or the Prince of Beauty. So, how much time do you want me to talk? Because I can go on, and I don't think we have too much time. Okay. Thank you. So, when you called to invite me for this, I think it was day before yesterday. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to go extempore. But there are a few things that I wanted to really talk about, and they, of course, are things that I'm absolutely passionate about, and that is art and performing arts in particular. The very specific field that we are honoring this man for, Jyoti Prasad. So, why is it that we have this very interesting? Because I'm speaking here today at a science institution, and I'm very, very happy that you're actually having this event here. But at the base, across the world, there seems to be a very interesting bifurcation between the arts and the sciences. We all know that, that's commonplace, we understand that. But the performing arts, I think, can actually go out of the ambit of just that bifurcation. Because, there is one thing that science and the art, I'm not saying humanities, I'm saying art, actually look for. And that is the idea of truth. Yeah, science is supposed to be always looking for truth. So does art. And if you recall, if any one of you is interested in English poetry, you are familiar with that very simple, very complex line uttered by John Keats, who said, "Beauty is truth and truth beauty." So let us celebrate today the Prince of Beauty and his artistic endeavors. I'm very interested in the fact that Jyoti Prasad comes from a family which migrated from Rajasthan. It's a little bit similar to my own background as well. So the project, I think someone was introducing me and my work, actually talks about the Marwadis in Assam and the processes of assimilation and integration into Ohomia society. And third, fourth generation migrant, Jyoti Prasad, writes in Assam, assumes the voice of Assam, speaks for Assam, in an almost similar kind of thing that you might find Walter Whitman doing when he writes Song of Myself and talks about America. And here you have the work of Jyoti Prasad in exuding the same kind of assimilation, the same kind of comprehensive embracing of the people and cultures of Assam. And I think this is very interesting. Now we know that he is an artist. We also know that he writes songs, he writes plays, he makes movies. But we also have to remember that he comes from a business family. And if one is reading some of the papers of Jyoti Prasad's own, notes when he was filming Joymati, and when he was trying to maintain certain kinds of accounts for that film, because his budget was going overboard and he didn't know how to really maintain those accounts. So you find that head for figures accounting is something that Jyoti Prasad also seems to carry. My point here is simply that, these bifurcations that we keep talking about in the disciplines are actually not rigid and cannot be rigid, because as human beings, we need everything in our lives. Particularly, we need art and beauty. So when Jyoti Prakash went off to Hamburg and he went off to other places in Germany, to Edinburgh, to learn his craft of filmmaking, and then comes back, a lot of it, in practical terms, in praxis, all the theory that he learns now has to be translated into actually making a movie. Joymoti in 1935. So all of these things come together. The technology he learns, his own artistic traits, his own artistic ideas, and then to translate it into the real film that he is supposed to make. Also, this very interesting, very important historical context of Jyoti Prakash's film comes. Joymoti, you see, nobody knew Joymoti in the earlier epochs. It's a very interesting fact, and we know that Ratneswar Mohanto comes a little bit earlier than Jyoti Prasad's film. Ratneswar Mohanto writes, recovers stories from the Ahom Burunjis, takes out the stories of Joymoti and places them within the historical context of the independence movement. And then you have the work of Padmanath Gohai Borua, who also writes again another play on Joymoti. And the next play I think everyone is familiar with, Lokinath Bezborua's Joymoti. And assimilating all these 3-4 documents into his vision for a movie, a film called Joymoti. So that's the context in which he made the film. And the other context, it's very interesting, Ratneswar Mohanto actually brings in a very interesting idea of Hotitto, of Sati, and Joymoti as Hoti Joymoti. Now, Hotitto, in that sense, in the sense that it is used in other parts of North India, is not really, I think, at home in Assam. Now, coming back to the idea of making a nation and creating art, and then, placing the idea of a nationalist martyr in the figure of Joymoti is both a political stance as well as an artistic, very intelligent piece of artistic recovery of the figure of Joymoti, which even people like Edward Gate and the others who have written so much on Assam history have not really talked about. তাৰ পিছত যেটো হৈছে আমাৰ জয়মতীৰ যেটো আমাৰ mythology that has built around the idea of Joymoti and her stories actually come about after all these 4 people and their work, and it builds on that. এতিয়াতো আমাৰ জয়মতী উৎসৱো হয় যোৰহাটত, এইটো বহুতে জানে, বহুতে এটেণ্ড কৰিছে হয়তো. So thinking about again how this man who's an artist, who's also a businessman, who's a filmmaker, who writes beautiful songs, he is also trying to build a nation in a very interesting way. In Joymoti, the film that he made, we know that Joymoti's husband was dallying with a woman called Dalini. Yes, I think we are familiar with that. But the way Jyoti Prakash was to hojaise jenekwa, he is doing it in a very deliberate way, because he's trying to gather the Naga tribe, the other tribal cultures, bring that all into the ambit of the nation that everybody is trying to build at that time. So yes, in a way, art is also propaganda. That is true. But art has a purpose. Now, of course, that has been debated too in the avant-garde. Avant-gardists say that no, art should be for art's sake. It should not have a purpose. Okay, so that is a debate we are not going to enter into, but where Jyoti Prasad is concerned, he's actually drawing from all of these things and then trying to build up a certain kind of a document. I'm calling Jayamati a document, where his agenda of building a nation, of nationalism in play at that particular time, 1935. It's an extremely interesting exercise that we see. So you have this. So that brings us really to what we might wonder about the place of the artist in the cultural life of a nation. I'm speaking to scientists here, but I'm sure lots of you are also artists in your own ways. And there are people who would argue that even conceptually, if we think about it, math, which I'm terrible at, is a kind of an art, conceptually. So the place of the artist in the society and the way Ruchor defines it and makes us understand this space. Are we really able to change anything when we are talking about art? I think it's a very important question. Can art really change something? He made a film, and the film really went into the unconscious of the people and made them think differently, even in 1935. But that is, so one of the things that we have to understand, and he's also a dramatist. We are all familiar with all of his drama projects. It is also something very interesting. Again, we are talking in terms of colonization and what he was really working against and with. In 1876, we had the Dramatic Performances Act, which could put a stop to any theatrical performance as it was being performed. Because, you can censor a film. Can you censor drama? Can you censor a live performance? It's a very interesting, very important question for people like us who do theater studies. This is something that you simply cannot control. So I'll give you a script. The script will pass muster. The script will be okayed by the censors. And then you come here and you can do your own thing completely extempore. You might rehearse a completely different play. And okay, of course, they can come and stop you, but part of it will go straight to the audience. And the fact that they will be shutting you down will also give you more traction to do your thing, whatever you wanted to do. So theater, particularly, is something that is extremely subversive and therefore very dangerous in so many ways to any establishment, to any regime, which is one of the reasons why theater is really never funded by the government as one might think it would. So these are very interesting things about the art itself and the role of the artist in shaping and changing and bringing about a meaningful kind of a change in society. Now, I'm really coming out with random thoughts, but these are things that I think are relevant if you're thinking about how art matters to us. In art and education, because we are right now at Guwahati University and all the other universities in India, we are now locking horns with the idea of the NEP, which actually suggests that we have complete interdisciplinarity, that you can do a math major and a Hotria minor. So when I was with the Center for Performing Arts, what we did was actually do that. So we now have about 80 students who are learning Hotria as a minor subject, and they might have mathematics as their major. there's a course on music as well that we started. We started a art of acting course. We've also started a film studies and criticism course. So all of these can be now taken by people who are in the sciences. And I think it's extremely significant because that, I think, is one of the ways in which we can develop bridges between the disciplines. Constantly not harping upon, the rigid and watertight compartmentalization of education streams. So that is now becoming a reality thanks to the NEP in some measure. But we know that, like I said, theatre particularly is so subversive, no government is going to fund a program. So we've been looking for money from the university. We've been asking the government to fund it. Of course, it's a dream. Perhaps one day it will come true, and we will have a proper theatre studies department in the university. And it might give courses that become available to students across disciplines, commerce, the trifecta, the arts, science, commerce, trifecta that we live with all the time. I don't know. The idea is to break that up and to make it more multidisciplinary. So that is what we are hoping we can do. So to round it all up, I began with, of course, talking about Rup Kaur and the massive kind of contributions he has in shaping our the way we look at life itself. If you look at a play like Karing or Leedy, and we talk nowadays about marginalization, and we talk about how we have to look at life of the subaltern, we have to look at history from below, etc. But Jyoti Prakash was doing it right there and then. So, in that sense, the political imagination, the search for truth, and the search for beauty, all of these things come together in the work of Jyoti Prakash. And I'm so happy and so delighted that we could meet today and we could talk about Jyoti Prakash's works and the nature of art. And I would suggest, and I was talking to your registrar sir, and he said that you all don't, the researchers don't really have a theatre group or a drama group. And I was saying that, IIT does, and they do a wonderful job, the faculty along with the other students. They have, I think, annual productions where both the faculty and the students get together and do wonderful productions. I've seen a couple of them, and they're absolutely excellent. So I'm suggesting why not do that. So that's just a little thing that I thought maybe would be wonderful if you could. But at the end of it all, thank you so much for having me and letting me talk a little bit about Jyoti Prakash. And here's hoping that beauty in all its forms survives. You see, art is the only thing that gives us joy. And it's the most marginalized, most underfunded thing anywhere. I think that is food for thought. We need beauty, and we need the truth that comes with that beauty.